Hello, Holistic Chamber of Commerce family. Welcome to today's Meet a Member Spotlight with Leanne Elliott. I'm really excited because today she's going to talk about our branding and how that can be our superpower. So real quick about Leanne, she's a freelance writer, podcaster, blogger, and business coach. She's a multifaceted entrepreneur that is first and foremost a writer, but also uses her decades of experience as an entrepreneur to help her clients really name and claim what makes their business unique. Leanne joins us today from Santa Ynez, California, where she's raising 3 kids, a gaggle of chickens. I like that, a gaggle of chickens, and 2 kitties with her husband, Ryan. So let's just jump right in here and talk about what is marketing and branding. I think some people think it's kind of like the same exact thing. So why don't we just dive into that whole gamut?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for having me. First of all, I'm really, really excited to be here. Yeah, branding is less about what's happening in the market and more about what an individual brings to the market. So what makes a business owner uniquely them, and then therefore what makes their business unique. So marketing is what happens after that's identified. What makes that person or the business unique? And then how do we put that out into the market in terms of a message, really, which is beyond a slogan or a tagline or the name of a business or the colors we pick. It's really about the ethos of the business and what makes that business unique. I think a lot of times people don't get into business because they see so many other people doing what they want to do or what they do themselves. And they think the market's saturated. Nobody's going to want what I have to offer. And the reality is, if we can identify what makes somebody unique, then they will attract the people that want to work with them and have their brand, literally, of that product, service, or whatever it is they're offering. So there really are completely different things. One is really what you're putting out as your message, and one is creating your message. So both are very important.
Does one need to come first? Like if someone is not quite sure of what their brand is, do you recommend them really trying to focus in on that, or just kind of, because you'll hear experts like, oh, just go market and talk about what you do, and people will come, and it's like, so do you need to brand it first, or do you just throw yourself out there and it will come later?
Yeah. Well, I think there can be a place for just jumping in and not overthinking it. I think that that can be a valuable thing. But if you are wanting to build that business after you've jumped into the arena, I think branding or creating your message and what are you bringing is very important. What is your specialty? What makes you unique? What makes your business unique? What are you doing that's different than everybody else? So identifying that is, like the title of this implies, it is your superpower. This is really what it's all about. I think that that is the first step to strategy when it comes to marketing is who are you marketing to and who is your ideal client? And it's okay to get help identifying what these things are. That can be an intimidating process to think, well, I'd like to offer my service to everybody. But I think that there is a very common, what is it? There's a slogan that is, if you offer it to everybody, you offer it to nobody.
Exactly.
Very, very, very true. And so this is where niche comes in. This is where messaging comes in. But most importantly, starting with what are you offering? What makes you unique? And then who is your ideal client? Who do you really serve? And this has been it's been a challenge for me personally. This is a hard thing because I am multifaceted. I love people and I love telling stories. And so I'm like, I can tell anybody's story, which is actually kind of true, because everybody has one. But finding what ours is a really powerful thing. It's a powerful exercise, even if we don't step into the marketplace. Knowing who we are, why we do what we do, and who we do it for are critical to having a business.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are afraid to narrow it down because they think that, oh my gosh, I'm going to exclude people and, I'm going to make less money. But what you say is correct. We can't serve everybody, and there's people we like to help, and then there's people that we don't really find much enjoyment in serving. So it's really a good idea to get clear on what it is that you're offering and to whom. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really important actually, because when you are clearly identifying yourself in the marketplace, um, even if somebody isn't your client, they become your referral. There's somebody who can go and say, actually, I think you'd be perfect for this person. This is a match. I had this happen when I was in the wedding industry. And I was a wedding planner, and I would tell clients that I don't think we're a match, but I would recommend somebody else. And then they would, a couple years later, send their friend to me. And so you just never know where good fits, ideal clients, matches will come from. The whole point of it is to show up as authentically ourselves and as authentic as we can in our businesses. And from there, that becomes our lead magnet. It's like the number one lead magnet is authenticity. And it's an overused word, but at the core of it, what it means is that we are showing up purely as ourselves, comfortable and clear about who that is. And then it's like an attraction point for people. And so it really is the key, I think, to success. And that's one of the most fun things that I do as a freelance writer, a copywriter, a brand marketer, is finding what makes somebody unique and telling their story. It really, really sincerely lights me up to do it.
Mhm. A lot of people, I think, believe that branding is super expensive, so they don't put it off. Like you see these professional websites and photo shoots and choosing colors, and everything is like so pretty and together, and you know I think that sometimes people resist it because they're like, I just, this is way too much money to be spending on
Mhm.
something. Especially for those members. I mean, we have our two sets of members. We have those that are just starting and are, working with their way up. And then we have our more established people. But for our starting people, they're like, oh my gosh, it's so expensive.
Yeah. It can be very intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
And if we try and do it all at once, it is overwhelming and very expensive. So, excuse me, when I work with coaching clients, my recommendation is we just start with the first step. It's always about the first step. We can only do the first step. And so, is that something we're doing today or this week or this month or this quarter? What's the goal for the year? And I think where we get burnout and people giving up is when we try to make it look like somebody who's 5 years into the game. Somebody said to me yesterday, you can't make your chapter 1 look like somebody else's chapter 5. So true. So when we're just starting out, sometimes it's a landing page. Sometimes it's just establishing ourselves on LinkedIn. Sometimes it's just finding out what it is we're actually doing. So I think determining what the most important thing is for that person or the business is also really critical, because it can't be all the things at once. It maybe eventually will be. And that's what we call building a business. But initially, that landing page might look like we put it up in 2 hours on Squarespace,
I wish we did.
but we have a landing page and somebody can go find us and somebody can go inquire at our contact link. And so hooray, victory, we're in the game.
Hmm.
Let's start there. So it doesn't have to be expensive, but it does have to be a process, and it just starts with the first step.
You talk about you like helping people find their uniqueness in their message. What would you say makes you unique compared to other people that maybe do writing, branding, marketing?
Yeah, I really, one of the reasons why I became a member of the Holistic Chamber of Commerce is because I felt it was a group of people, a collection of people that are starting from a heart-centered place about how they do business. And that's really where I come from as well. Um, like I said, I love telling people stories because I love people. I actually find people really fascinating. My favorite class in college was anthropology because I was so fascinated with how cultures developed, how there were key turning points in the development of people as a species. And I really am like a lifelong anthropologist, and I'm an insatiably curious person. And so that really lights me up when I'm talking to somebody and I'm finding out what makes them tick. And then it is so fun for me to turn that into their story. And I think it's hard for us to tell our own story. It can be really hard to say, who am I and what do I stand for and what do I want to bring to the world? It's so I like being a partner in that process, in pulling that story out of people and then putting it onto paper and having somebody read a bio I wrote about them or web copy I wrote for them and have them say, oh my gosh, this is it. This is who I am. And I'm actually working with somebody right now. We're developing their website. She's taken a hiatus from her business for 5 years, and she's changed a lot in those 5 years. And even though she knows what she wants to do and who she is, she's like, how do I present the new me? So we are going through a series of interview sessions and really getting into the heart of who she's become and what she now wants to offer in her business. So I think that's what makes me unique, is I really invest in what the journey is of that person or that business and come along as a partner.
I think that's beautiful because stories are very compelling. When you go to a website, I don't think it's enough anymore to just say, okay, here, this is what I do. Even in social media, not just necessarily a website. I don't know that if it's enough just put your stuff out there. It's like people want to know who they're working with, and what a better way to do that than through storytelling. And it doesn't have to be an elaborate thing, but we aren't all gifted writers.
Yeah.
And that's why it can be very challenging to talk about ourselves, to get clear on what we do and how we help people, because we just can't put it down on paper very well.
Yeah,
well.
I totally agree. For all the bad rap that social media gets, and it can be a thing, especially in business, where we're like, I've got to post, I've got to figure out how to utilize this resource, because that's really what it is. But what I marvel at when I look at social media is humanity showing up for the most part as their full authentic selves. Ergo, viral videos. People are fascinated by other people showing up authentically and being bold in that. And so I think, yeah, it's a really powerful thing to be able to tell our story and to show up fully as ourselves. And yeah, I think that is really actually the key to just about everything. That's one of the things that I pull together too, is that while we have our private lives, who we are as the essence of ourselves really should be represented in our business. And I think where we can get into trouble is we try and separate the two. This is my professional self and this is my private self. We absolutely need a private life, but who we authentically are should be the centerpiece of our business as well. It's really important.
So how'd you get from wedding planning into doing this?
Good question. Oh my gosh. Well, I'll start by saying I was always a writer first. Wedding planning was actually kind of accidental. I remember I gave a speech to be the class president in 6th grade. And while we were practicing our speeches, the girl in front of me, I went first, and then a girl came behind, in the practice, I went first. The girl behind me memorized my speech and then got up in front of the student body and basically gave my speech. It was a first indication that maybe I could write and knew how to communicate what I wanted to the world.
Because somebody stole it. 6th grader.
And I was like, well, I guess that's the biggest form of flattery right there. So there it is. But I have stacks of journals. I've always been a writer. It's always been how I've processed. I started freelance writing in my 20s and doing feature articles for newspapers. And then I had kids and I could not keep up with the deadlines. I had editors in my inbox at 9 a.m. saying I need a rewrite by noon. And I had 2 kids in diapers in the sandbox, at the park going, I'm not going to make noon. And I had an event planning background. And so I was like, I wonder if nervous brides will be more forgiving than editors. And it turns out they were. I was able to run my business from home. I had a blast. It really, it's transferable skills, to be totally honest. Business is business. And it was very similar in that I got into the psyche of the bride, who the couple was, what made them tick. And we brought to, fruition these beautiful weddings that felt like who they were. And I do the same thing with writing. So, yeah, I love event planning, but I had to say goodbye to it. I'm much more passionate about being a writer and about bringing messages to the world. So that's where I am.
And you have a podcast too, so talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, funny enough, when I left event planning, I went on a sabbatical to consider how I wanted the next half of my life to look. And kind of like a lightning bolt, as it happens, came out of the blue. And I was like, I think I need to do a podcast. I'd always envied people on the radio. I always thought having a radio show would be really fun. And it had been percolating in the back of my mind. And I thought, what the heck? Let's just try it. So I did. I launched a podcast last fall. It's been hugely successful. I'm having an absolute blast at it. I had 54 episodes last season, and I'm about to launch season 2 in October. It's called You're Up First, YOU''RE, Up First. It's streaming on all of the places you get podcasts. And this season, we're actually focusing on professional women in the market, how to have, like we just talked about, how to show up authentically as yourself, how to be a professional, how to have a balance between manifesting and hustling. It's going to be a really powerful season of interviewing professionals about how they do a holistic business. So I'm really excited about it.
It sounds fabulous. And it's so funny. I love listening to podcasts, but I myself tried to do a podcast and I found like talking to nothingness drove me crazy. So I think it takes, a special person to be able to just, talk and be like super comfortable. I'm like, I need people in front of me. I need audience. I need to like see faces.
Yeah.
And my limited stuffed animal collection does not cut it.
Totally. Oh my gosh. Well, that's why I do an interview podcast, because I love getting on, the record with other professional women that are just lit up by what they do. They're completely in their zone with what they do. And we have these powerhouse conversations about how they do what they do, how I do what I do. And it just like the hour just goes poof. Because it's so much fun. It's like having coffee with a girlfriend. I just record it and publish it. So
Nice.
yeah, it's fun.
All right, so if someone's watching and they want to reach out to you or get more information, where can they go?
Everything lives at leanneelliott.com, and Elliott is with 2 L's and 2 T's. Yeah, I've got, if you wanted to check out my podcast, I've got it there, also on streaming. You can learn more about me there. You can inquire about how to work together. Happy to hop on to 15-minute or 30-minute discovery call and see if we're a match. So that's where you can go inquire at my Work With Me tab on my website.
Thank you so much for being with us today and for sharing your wisdom around writing, being authentic, marketing, branding, something that is so important, especially in today's noisy world.
Yes.
There's a lot of noise out there. So
there is. Let's break through it.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Leanne, so much. It was nice chatting with you.
Thank you, Laura. It was great being here.
Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.